How old were you when you met her?
23.
And she was 24.
4.
Older woman.
She married a baby.
Well, we both worked for the Royal Dutch Airlines, KLM, on Park Avenue in New York.
We were both working at KLM. I guess that's the only way I can describe how we met.
He was in the accounting department, and I was on the other end of the building in the sales department. Truthfully, he used to have to come over every once in a while to our side of the building, and I saw this very handsome 6'4" man coming back and forth, and I asked a couple of the other girls, do you know who he is, or is he married? Nobody really knew who he was, but I asked my boss because he had dealt directly with him, and he said his name, which was wonderful, John Lenahan, love that, and I decided I wanted to meet him.
I can't remember the exact day or what the situation was, but we were both in the same office, and I guess we bumped into each other.
So my sister Ronnie, Lord rest her, Ronnie worked on an outside desk, and I was on an inside desk. So we had the deal that when she saw him coming to our side of the building, she would send me a buzzer that we had in the offices. Everybody had that, just to let me know he was there. And I would come out and make believe I had something to say. I kind of introduced myself to him, and he asked me to go out.
Our first day was bowling. I had been bowling at a previous job, and I think Louis was too. So I don't know, I forget, but it probably came up in a conversation, and then we decided bowling would be a good thing to do.
And this was November 30th, 1956, and the rest is kind of history. We married exactly a year later. Now, our first date was very nice, and we had a lovely evening, but the Christmas party was a real big deal. It was the posh party that KLM served every year. KLM had a deal with a well-known dress designer company in downtown Manhattan, and I decided I wanted a red dress, so I got a red satin dress, and it was pretty beautiful, even if I say so myself.
How do you know about the red dress? Oh, it was like a fisherman with a hook, and the red dress was the hook. And once I got hooked, I was done.
I mean, it was a deliberate move to attract him. There's no doubt about that. That's exactly what I was doing. And very early in our romance, if you will, he said he wanted to marry me. And I thought, that's too quick.
And how long did you date before you proposed?
About a month. Yeah, I think we met in November, and we set a date, I believe it was at the New Year's of that 1956. So it was about maybe 6 weeks.
It was quick, maybe 6 weeks. I didn't say yes right away, but he apparently had that in mind right away, and so the logical thing was, well, let's get married. And yes, I was thrilled. Actually, by the time I wore the red dress, I pretty much knew that it was going to be history.
Well, we met a lot because we both worked in the same office. We'd meet in the morning for coffee and then ride the train halfway home. I got off before she did. But we kind of had a quick meeting every day, and that just went on for nothing special between New Year's and our wedding date that we hadn't experienced before. We used to stop and have a couple of adult drinks after work. at the Monkey Bar, the Monkey Bar. But that was it. It was pretty simple.
I think that our courtship, yes, that was very exciting because you're kind of getting to know each other, and certainly not in an intimate way, but in a closer way than when you were just dating. We loved to go bowling. We were great. I was pretty good, and he was darn good. So that was kind of a regular thing. It was fun. Sorry?
Who usually won when you went bowling?
Actually, I did a couple of times. So I did the best I could. And I think we played 8 games the first time we went out. But I won at least 2 or 3 of those. Not too bad at all.
Well, I moved to Houston in August of that year, and then came back to New York in November. And instead of going back the day of the wedding, we spent 2 nights in New York, and then we flew back to Houston. And then we stayed there for about 2 weeks before we did our honeymoon in Europe.
It was very difficult. As a brand new bride, I was thrilled to go with him. I was anxious to go back and be his wife and live there. Then that's exactly what we did. Married Saturday, Sunday, Monday we left for Texas.
Wow.
Because he had to get back to work.
What do you most remember about your wedding day?
Oh my God, that it poured rain for one thing.
It rained like hell.
Yeah, it poured rain.
It was a terribly rainy day.
Which, in truth, it didn't bother me one single bit. I didn't care. I wasn't thinking that's an omen or wow, that's too bad, or...
But it probably brought us good luck, I don't know.
That day, nothing specifically would stand out in my mind.
When you have days full of excitement, they're kind of hard to go back and put them together again.
What has been your secret for keeping your love so strong all these years?
There is probably no secret at all to it.
I don't know if there's any secret.
You have great respect for one another.
You need to have a certain measure of love and understanding, at times patience, and if you do that, you get along.
You try and please them, he, me, and me, him, as much as you can, just the way it should be.
When were you most proud of Poppop? Through your 60
Oh my God.
something years.
Most proud. I've always been proud of him.
I always am.
Out of all the places you've lived, because there have been many.
Yes, there have.
What was your favorite and least favorite?
The best. Where most of the family grew up, that would be in Woodmont. It really wasn't the worst, but if I had to pick one that I didn't enjoy the most, our second house in Palm Harbor. We weren't there very long, just a couple of years, and there was nothing really attached to it that I would, remember fondly.
I would say Ireland was my favorite. Living where my parents did and his parents did, and just being in a country that we loved. And the least, I think, Long Island. And the only redeeming thing was that my friend Pat Novak also lived in Wantaw.
Okay, if you could take one trip together right now and not worry about cost or how long the flight is, where would you go?
Back to Ireland.
Go back to Ireland.
Definitely back to Ireland.
The first time I went to Ireland was in 1955, and I got to live in places that were without running water, without facilities, without heat or air conditioning. I got to the point where I was able to understand what our parents went through and the tough times they lived through. My mother was, I think, one of 10 in a 2-bedroom cottage. The children used to sleep in the loft, not in beds, but in mattresses on on the floor. When I come to a realization of what they lived through and what they experienced, and then when they came to America, the enormous contrast to that, and it kind of stays with me.
The fact that we were both Irish Catholics, we had a lot of similarities in our growing up, and certainly because his parents and my parents were from not the same counties but the same country, we were able to feel a bond that I don't think a lot of other relationships would be. There's something in your thoughts and the way you were brought up that match, but again, you know, we both hit it off pretty well.
If you come from decent upbringing, I think you just continue it. When you come from a big family like I did, I was one of 5. You think about having a family similar to it. Mimi comes from a family of 5 also, so it was kind of mutual agreement that we would have a large family, 5, 6. When we were courting, I wrote to her and asked her to give me the names of 18 children. And we had no intention of having 18 children, but it was just to see maybe what her attitude was to having a large family. And I can't tell you how many names she gave me, but there was more than 3 or 4.
What was your greatest lesson in raising your 6 children?
Oh my goodness. One great lesson any parent has to have is the art of patience. It can be, especially when you have them as quickly as we did.
I guess exercising the same kind of patience and love for the kids, because they're all different. Of the 6, there are no 2 the same, or similar even. When you just look at them and their profiles and what they've accomplished in life, they're so different from each other, and they're all great.
People will say, well, you've been married so long, what advice would you give to a couple getting married? Again, patience is the most important, one of the most important things. But basically, what I did, and that's the way a marriage goes.
Yeah.
What do I most love or
Admire?
Everything. I don't know. Her patience, especially with me. Her understanding. I don't know. Everything she does is okay with me.
Certainly his faith, because that's been very strong in a lot of very difficult times. The man he is even more than I expected it to be. He is